Steve Schmidt with The Warning here. Pleased to be joined by Tara Palmeri of The Red Letter, who's been doing some incredible reporting about a really important story. And that is, of course, the relationship between Jeffrey Epstein, the pedophile, and Donald Trump. And let's be clear that there's a lot of conspiracies, a lot of smoke, a lot of misinformation around all of these stories. And Tara is somebody who has reported on it for many, many years. And I think better than anybody else has been, through her writing, been able to help me understand the implications of it all politically. If you fall into that category of people that just kind of have an allergy any time that there's a certain cohort of people on Fox start talking about an issue, you see the Cash Patels and Dan Bonginos of the world. For me, right, that's an off switch, right? I can't hear a word those people start saying. So, Tara, like at the end of the day, as you pointed out in your writing, there's 1,000 girls, by some estimates, more than 1,000, that were abused by Jeffrey Epstein. Who is Jeffrey Epstein, and how does he know Donald Trump? How do these two guys know each other?
Yeah, I know.
It's like at the basic level.
I mean, they're kind of the same type of guy. They're outer borough guys, come from Queens. Jeffrey Epstein from Coney Island. They became friends when Jeffrey started managing money for really wealthy people. It started with Les Wexner, his biggest client, who owned Victoria's Secret. And Jeffrey was sort of trading on people's secrets in a way, getting them to manage their money, but also kind of trafficking girls to them. And he had invested in a modeling agency, so he had tons of access to these girls. He also had Ghislaine Maxwell, his groomer there, out looking for young girls. She offered, a veneer of acceptability in society because she was a high society woman who had graduated from Oxford, the daughter of the man who owned the New York Daily News and the Daily Mirror. And she had a sort of way about her where she could kind of cover for this rough and tumble Jeffrey Epstein, who was a pedophile, a man in his 50s who was spending time with teenage girls openly in front of very powerful and wealthy people. And so during the height of his sex trafficking operation, he was friends with Donald Trump.
The teenage girls who are around Jeffrey Epstein in social circumstances, at where are all these high society people encountering Jeffrey Epstein, and there's like a teenager there?
Yeah, I mean, you go to his house. It didn't make sense. It's like he's an older man. There are young girls hanging out at the pool, a lot of them topless. There's pictures of naked girls all over the home. It was not a secret. He had run a huge, he had run a pyramid scheme at a local high school in Palm Beach. Well, not Palm Beach, outside of Palm Beach in the poorer area. And he was paying these girls $200 for a massage. And if they could recruit a friend, they got $200 as well. And so it became this big pyramid scheme, and there were hundreds of girls, and it was horrible. And he had private jets and islands and access to all these powerful people. But if you step foot in the guy's house, it was disgusting. And, I spoke to a lawyer who deposed President Trump for his case for a victim, Courtney Wild. And when he asked President Trump about it, Trump said, I asked Epstein, what's this all about with the girls? And he said, it's a big brother, big sister program. Come on. Like, it was that gross. It was that weird. It was that shocking. And I just think it was a depraved circle, because all of these elites just saw these girls like they were party favors. I mean, Ghislaine used to call them tissues. You can throw them away. And that to me was like something I never forgot, that phrase. And that was the way that they were viewed. And it wasn't just by Ghislaine and Epstein. It was by everybody else who was around them too, they had sort of brought into this bacchanal style lifestyle where everything goes. And it was just a very upsetting, thing to know that so many people had known about this for so long, and yet no one had thought, let's pick up the phone and call and say, hey, this guy who lives in Palm Beach is a real creep. The only people who did that were the parents who went to the police department and they tried to build a case. And it's a really sad story.
So why is it that all of a sudden in the summer of 2025, the Wall Street Journal story is a big deal with this? What is it that they have told us in the reporting that we really didn't know beforehand that's such a problem for Trump out of what they reported, separated from Pam Bondi saying, hey, I got the file on my desk I'm reading, and then transitioning to there's no file. Put that aside. Is there anything that is in that Wall Street Journal story that has lit the new look at all of this from your perspective that's really
I think
really matters?
to me, it is confirmation of what we already knew, which was that Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump were friends at the height of his operation, and that it would be very difficult for Trump not to have known about what was happening. And the Wall Street Journal article does not, you can interpret it however you want, but it seems the secret that we share or good to be pals, it just suggests that he was aware the entire time of what was going on and at the very least enabled him. Now, it doesn't say that he took part in it, but this is depraved behavior. This is depraved activity. And it's for Trump to say, oh, look at that person, they're Epstein friend. They're that person, they're Epstein's friends. It's like, actually, you were too. You were too. And the connection is not great. So, I've interviewed a lot of the victims. A lot of victims remember seeing Donald Trump. One of them was hired from Mar-a-Lago, Virginia Giuffre, who I was very close with, who died by suicide. And I mean, Maria Farmer, she remembers meeting Ivana with Ghislaine Maxwell. Like, they were all close. There were 14 entries for Trump in the Black Book. It's just like, this isn't just because these two things are aligned doesn't mean he did anything, but it just also suggests, like, at one point you suggest that, at what point are you an enabler?
So this story is about Epstein's 50th birthday party, and you're away last week, and I know you're away, and you're working while you're away, and you've written a thing about it, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, Tara's away, like, I don't, want to bother Tara, like, while she's away. But the headline of your story is about Epstein's 40th birthday.
10 years earlier.
Right. And when I read the headline of the story that you wrote, I reached out to you and I was like, hey, Tara, I think you have a typo in your headline.
Yeah.
because right, it's about the 50th birthday. And I thought you had, because you're so deep on the details, you just had another facet, and you respond and you say, no. This is what happened at his 40th birthday party, completely apart from the Wall Street Journal reporting and the Trump letter, which is the 50th birthday. So this backs all of that up 10 years to Epstein's 40th birthday party. And tell us what goes down at the 40th birthday party with the song and everything else from your reporting, because it's the same deal. Ghislaine Maxwell is there, and she's the curator of the songs, the books, and the tribute. And what both of these events prove is that everybody who's around this guy and who's celebrating him, one of the key features, right, that like if he was a star physicist, right, or a Pulitzer Prize winning writer, maybe you would have jokes about literature. If he was really into fishing, but he was into molesting young girls, so all of the jokes are about girls. And so what is the 40th birthday party?
Yeah, I mean, the girls were a joke to them. The girls didn't matter, and that's another part. So basically, Glenn Maxwell throws a party for Epstein at his townhouse, his mansion, one of the biggest mansions in New York City, and she asks one of her friends, Christopher Mason, who I interviewed, to write a song for him, and she specifically asks a song that he's supposed to sing a cappella for Epstein to serenade him in front of all the guests, wealthy friends, people like Les Wexner. And she says, I want to make sure that you include his 24-hour erections and his love of young schoolgirls. Those are the only two things I want. And so he comes up with the song, and he sang the song. And I have a copy of this song in my podcast, Power the Maxwells. I did 2 podcast investigative series on this.
Where can we find those for the people that are on?
Yeah, you can. Both are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. It's Broken, Jeffrey Epstein, and I did the second season, starting with the Enablers, and that's where I travel with Virginia. And then the other one is Power the Maxwells, and it's really focused on Ghislaine and her family and the man behind her, Robert Maxwell, who's thought to be a Mossad agent, and how she became this very sick and twisted woman. I mean, it's the perversion of Ghislaine is something else. And I get very angry when I see people suggesting that she deserves clemency or some sort of pardon. It's like he would be nothing without her. The operation would be nothing without her. So yeah, my brain just flipped, and I was like, 50th birthday, 40th. Oh my gosh, wait a minute, I remember this. This happened. They basically did the exact same thing. This was a part of the culture. It was like, they had to make everyone feel loose and calm, and everything is normal. Normalize everything. Normalize it. Normalize the abuse of girls. Normalize the objectivity of these girls. Normalize the idea that they are tissues to be thrown away, and make it that thing that everyone can laugh at. It's a joke. It's all jolly. Ha 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 ha. And he sings it for me, and it's incredibly creepy. And you can listen to it on the show, the actual song and him singing it. But when I heard about the book, I was like, oh yeah, Glenn asking everyone to give a note to Trump, and Les Wexner drawing boobs on the picture, or this and that. I'm like, this sounds like this check. Like, to me, it was like, if there's a pattern, this seems like a pattern. And because he was celebrated for his perversion, which is the sad part truly about this. In a lot of ways, I think he wanted to be envied because he could live above the law, right? He wanted his powerful friends to envy him that he could be with these young girls.
These young girls who are children, the youngest of them are 14?
No, 12. Braces.
12.
Yeah. Courtney Wild came to him with braces. And the way that they mentally manipulated these girls was so sad. I mean, Courtney, for example, who I interview extensively, she talks about her fight. I mean, she didn't think that what he did was wrong, that he didn't do anything wrong to her. She was showing up with braces because she'd come from a broken home. She had no self-esteem. He had groomed them. And she actually envied the girls that got to go on the jets and got to go and travel around. She brought her best friend there. And then when the police came to her, when they were doing the investigation, she went to Jeffrey and said, I need a lawyer. I did something wrong. And Jeffrey made her feel like she did something wrong because she was so young. And then, her friend also got a lawyer from Jeffrey. And then that lawyer, she said to the investigators, Jeffrey's awesome. He's so cool. Nothing's wrong. Because they had mentally destroyed these girls, who had so many of them who come from broken families. And the moment that makes me cry every time even when I listen to it again or think about it again, Courtney could not imagine that she was worthy of being a victim. Like, they had such low self-esteem. He had battered and beaten these girls so low. They were so low. And it wasn't until she read the depositions from other girls who had come forward that she realized that there was something wrong and she would fight for them.
Why does this matter politically? Why is this so potent for MAGA after everything?
Honestly, Steve, I hate the politics of it all because I really think that this is a story about humanity and about justice and a two-tier justice system. Like, I don't give a shit who looks bad on this list. I don't care if it's a Democrat or it's a Republican. I've heard, all sorts of names. I just think this is an example of two-tier justice, abuse of power, wealthy people not seeing people who are below, dehumanizing women, girls, children. And yes, the MAGA movement is a conspiratorial one, sure. But I don't think the spy conspiracies, why did the government let him off? I understand that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we have to I still feel like there's an anger at the government for letting him off. And I understand that conspiracy. And no one can quite understand how the government would let him off. But I'm telling you, he hired all of the top lawyers and he put all of the pressure on it. And every step of the way, the government, they disappointed those girls.
Is you got to go in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But is the sin here for most of these powerful people who came into Jeffrey Epstein's orbit that just as a matter of reality, they went into a party? If you were around Epstein, you can't help but notice that standing in the corner or sitting across from you is a child, and no one did anything. Is that what happened?
Well, I do think that there were a few different scenarios. And here's what I think. I think that Jeffrey always brought attractive women around, right? And I say women, because sometimes the girls were over 18. Some of these girls that were trafficked, I know that. And I do think he kept the young ones, the super young ones, to himself. But I also think that he would traffic young girls as compromise, as blackmail, and to have that on people. Or even just to have their secret of oh, when you're with me, everything flies. By the way, give me your money and I'll take care of it. I'll invest it. So there's kind of two ends to it. Not every man wanted to be with a child like that. I do think there are a lot of girls. I mean, there was a pyramid scheme in a high school, And a lot of these girls were so poor. I mean, they couldn't even their shoes were too tight. I think some of the guys also assumed that the girls were over 18 or I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. I think when you go to his house and you see that this is the other thing, he really liked the girls to look young, bodies that were very, very, very prepubescent. He wanted girls that looked young. He was a pedophile. He was a sick human being, a pedophile.
What do you want to see happen that brings closure in your mind to this story, knowing that your friend who is a victim of Virginia Giuffridi is dead?
Yeah.
That all of these girls and women lives are shattered, that you have been involved in pursuing justice, pursuing truth. How does this resolve?
I think that you need to keep prosecuting the case. You can't just drop it. You have to go after the Johns. There were a lot of Johns. You have to keep going. You can't stop now. You have to release the files. You have to actually build cases. You have to actually do the right thing, not sweep this under the rug. That's the only way.
And is that how you see this? Is this a story at the end of the day about immense power and an invisible class of people who were just turned to dust?
Absolutely. And I was talking to Maria Farmer, who's one of the victims, and, she said to me last week, I feel re-victimized by the government when they said case closed. And Courtney said something like that to me too, when they kept feeling re-victimized by the government because the government kept telling them over and over again, you don't matter. You don't matter. And how's this not the latest example?
One of the toughest things, everybody, is to know who is on your side, who's fighting for you, who will tell you the truth and go out there, dig it up, and let you know what's going on because you deserve to know that in a free country. Tara Palmeri is one of those people, one of the very, very best. You can find her at the Red Letter. Some really extraordinary reporting on this over the last week. And I urge you to listen to the podcast. I listened to like 2 episodes earlier today. It's an incredible story. Tara's reporting is amazing. Go and listen to it. Thank you, Tara. You can subscribe to Tara at the Red Letter. Talk to you later. See you soon. Thank you, everybody, for getting on. Take care.
Bye.
I'm Steve Schmidt. This is The Warning. I invite you to join this community where I promise to be honest, blunt, and direct about what is happening in this country. America is in crisis. Follow and subscribe to this channel and on Substack. Thank you.